was January when I had one of the scariest nights of my life. I lived in a small wooded town in Maine, about 40 minutes outside the city. My house wasn't big, but it was cozy, tucked at the end of a long driveway surrounded by trees. That evening I got a call from my friend Mark. His car broke down again, and he asked if I could give him a ride home. I agreed without hesitation. It wasn't the first time. I grabbed my coat, stepped to the front door, and swung it open. I nearly jumped out of my skin. A man was standing right there on my porch, not knocking, not moving, just standing a foot away. He wore a heavy winter coat, a scarf pulled up over his face. When I gasped, he didn't flinch. Instead, he calmly asked, "Are you Daniel? Or Derek?" "No," I stammered. He muttered an apology and walked off into the dark. I stood there, stunned, watching until he disappeared down my driveway. The whole ride to Mark's, I couldn't shake the unease. My neighborhood was secluded. You didn't just get random visitors by accident. By the time I got home that night, the snow was falling lightly. I locked up and sat on the couch, trying to relax with the TV. Hours passed. Eventually, I stood to go upstairs, but as I passed the front door, I remembered that strange encounter earlier. Something made me check the peephole. No one was there. But when I opened the door to glance outside, I saw footprints in the fresh snow, leading up my driveway, circling near my car, then vanishing into the trees. My blood went cold. I locked the door and called 911. As I explained, I heard faint noises around the house. At first, I thought I was imagining things. But then came the thud. A heavy smash against my back door. Another, louder. Someone was trying to break in. The dispatcher urged me to hide or escape. Heart pounding, I grabbed my keys and bolted out the front, sprinting to my car. I didn't look back until I was halfway down the road. When the police arrived, they found my back door beaten open. Wet footprints trailed through my kitchen, but no one was inside. I described the man from earlier, but there was nothing solid to go on. They never caught him. I often wonder what would have happened if I hadn't checked the door before bed, if I had been asleep when he forced his way inside. Back in 2019, when I was a sophomore in college, I picked up babysitting jobs to help pay my bills. One regular job was watching a 3-year-old boy once a week in a quiet suburban neighborhood in Vermont. The parents were polite, but something about them always seemed a little tense. They usually left around bedtime, saying they were going to the city for a night out. My job was simple. Just keep an eye on the sleeping child until they returned. One night started like all the others. The boy was already asleep. I settled in on the couch, scrolling through my phone. Less than an hour later, the mother called. Her voice was uneasy. She asked if I had just called her. Confused, I said no. She explained she had gotten a call from an unknown number, but no one spoke. She thought it might have been me. I reassured her everything was fine. Not long after, I noticed headlights outside. A rusted gray sedan idled in front of the house. My stomach dropped when I spotted a man standing near the driveway, staring directly at the home. I froze at the window. After a minute, he turned, got back in the car, and drove away slowly. But I watched as his headlights stopped down the road, then went out. The unease lingered. I stayed alert, listening for any sound. Hours dragged by, and just as I was beginning to nod off, I heard it. A faint thump from the back of the house. Then again, louder. I walked cautiously toward the sound. Out of the corner of my eye, through the glass of the back door, I saw him. The same man, pulling hard on the handle, his face lit by the faint glow of a street lamp. When our eyes met, he yanked the door violently, rattling it in its frame. I panicked, ran upstairs, and grabbed the boy, who woke in confusion. The pounding below grew louder, wood cracking, metal bending. By the time I reached the stairs again, the back door burst open. The man stepped inside, a knife gleaming in his hand. I bolted through the front door, child in my arms, and dove into my car. He sprinted after us, reaching the window just as I sped away. I called 911, but by the time officers arrived, he was gone. Later, I learned something chilling. The mother had been married before, to a man who, according to public records, looked eerily similar to the one I saw. She never spoke of it, and after that night the family cut contact with me completely. They never hired me again. To this day, I don't know if it was her ex-husband, some stalker, or a stranger who knew too much about their schedule. But I'll never forget the look in his eyes, or the sound of that door giving way as I ran for my life. It was the winter of last year. During a solo road trip, I decided to take from Minnesota to Idaho. I wanted to challenge myself, see the mountains, and just clear my head for a while. Most of the route was endless highway, stretches of farmland, dense woods, and long barren roads with little to no civilization in sight. My plan was to make the trip in one go. I didn't want to waste money on another hotel, so I stocked up on snacks, packed energy drinks, and told myself I could handle driving through the night. For the first hour, everything was normal, just towns and a few scattered cars. But the further west I got, the lonelier the road became. By the second hour, I realized gas stations were getting scarce. I decided to fill up at the next one I found. Eventually, I pulled into a tiny rundown station. The convenience store was closed, and only 4 pumps sat beneath flickering yellow lights. As I pumped my gas, the nozzle trickled so slowly it felt like an eternity. That's when I noticed headlights down the road. A car moving way too slow, like 20 miles an hour in a 55 zone. It passed the station at first, but then slowed down, stopped, and reversed. I froze as it backed up and turned into the lot, pulling in right behind me. I told myself it wasn't unusual. Maybe they just missed the entrance. But when the driver got out, I noticed something unsettling. A tall man in a gray flannel and black jeans stood outside his car, just staring at me. His face was blank, his eyes dull, almost lifeless. I gave an awkward nod, pretending not to notice how intensely he was watching. After a moment, he finally grabbed the pump. I told myself I was overthinking. But when I finished fueling and looked back at him, he was still staring. I got in my car and left, shaking it off as just a weird guy. But hours later, after it had started raining and fatigue set in, I stopped at another old gas station to rest. The place was deserted. I filled up, parked at the side, and decided to take a quick nap in my car. When I woke up, rain still hammered the roof. But there was a car at one of the pumps, a familiar one, the same gray sedan. My chest tightened. I scanned the lot but didn't see the man anywhere. The car was just sitting there. My gut screamed that something was wrong. I started the engine and put it in reverse. That's when I saw him. Not outside, not behind me. He was in my back seat, his face reflected in the rearview mirror, eyes burning through the dark. I kicked my door open and bolted out into the rain, stumbling onto the pavement as my car rolled backward. The man didn't chase me. He simply slid into the driver's seat and drove away with my car, my phone still on the dashboard. I stood in shock, stranded in the middle of nowhere, until I realized he had left his own car behind. Inside, I found groceries, a phone, and keys in the ignition. Calling 911 from the stranger's phone, investigators later confirmed what I dreaded. That car was stolen too. The groceries belonged to someone else he had already victimized. Unlike me, they weren't as lucky. The police told me he hadn't revealed himself in my back seat by mistake. He likely wanted to wait until we were far down the road before striking. For what reason, no one knows. He was never caught. My car was never recovered, and I'll never forget those dull, unblinking eyes staring at me in the rearview mirror.